Welcome, everyone. What you just heard was a traditional Purim song that comes from Iona, Greece. And this is just one of many works in the Judeo-Greek language. Before we can really start talking about Judeo-Greek, though, it's important to establish the history of its formation. Jews began migrating to Greece during the period of 586 to 539 BCE, following the Babylonian conquest of the Kingdom of Judah. A small number of Jews also moved to Greece as part of Persian King Xerxes' navy when he invaded Greece in 480 BCE. For a variety of other reasons, including trade and exile, a substantial number of Jews moved to parts of the Mediterranean like Greece, Egypt, Turkey, and Syria from about 480 to 300 BCE. When Alexander the Great conquered the Mediterranean during the 330s BCE, Jews widely adopted Greek in these areas, including in the Kingdom of Israel. The mixing of Greek and pre-existing Hebrew and Aramaic in these regions created the Judeo-Greek language. In her entry for Judeo-Greek on the Jewish Languages website, researcher Julia Krivorunchko breaks up Judeo-Greek into 4 historical periods. The first such period is the Hellenistic period, which lasted from about 330 BCE to 600 CE. During this time, Hellenistic empires were prominent, and many Jews were part of these empires. Next is the Byzantine period, which lasted from about 600 to 1300 CE. During this period, Byzantium and Hellenistic empires fell, causing many Jews and non-Jews to abandon Greek in favor of their local languages. Despite this, some Jewish communities maintained Judeo-Greek through this period. The Ottoman and modern period lasted from about 1300 to 1945 CE. During this period, the Ottoman Empire and independent Greek state were established. The last period is a postmodern period, which takes place from 1945 to the present. This period marks the decline of Judeo-Greek after the Holocaust, which wiped out the vast majority of Greek Jews and Judeo-Greek speakers. There exists an abundance of works in the Judeo-Greek language from throughout its history. Works by writers like Josephus Flavius on the left and Philo of Alexandria on the right were written in Judeo-Greek. Judeo-Greek is also present in the epigraphs of Jews throughout the Mediterranean. Perhaps the most famous Judeo-Greek work is the 70, a Judeo-Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. Today, Judeo-Greek is studied by researchers in many countries around the world. Some of these researchers include Julia G. Krivorunchko at the University of Cambridge in England, Mary C. Connerty at Penn State in the US, and Shifra Znal at the Academy of the Hebrew Language in Israel. Some areas of focus by these researchers include loanwords, language contact, language obsolescence, lexical semantics, and etymology. Moving on to aspects of Judeo-Greek as a language, the base language is of course Greek, which has historically been and continues to be a co-territorial language. Today, Greek is the official language of modern-day Greece and Cyprus. However, it used to cover a much larger area during the Hellenistic period, being the primary language in much of the Mediterranean. Judeo-Greek is also one of the most long-standing Jewish languages. The only previous Jewish languages in the language chain of Judeo-Greek are Hebrew and Aramaic. Since the Ottoman period, Judeo-Spanish, Judeo-English, and modern Israeli Hebrew have all been incorporated into some Judeo-Greek dialects because of language contact caused by speakers of Judeo-Greek and these languages migrating to different areas. Speakers of Judeo-Greek mainly follow the pronunciation of Standard Greek, but also use pronunciations from Hebrew, especially with loanwords. For example, much like speakers of Judeo-English, speakers of Judeo-Greek tend to aspirate consonants more often than speakers of Standard Greek. They also use gutturals, such as when pronouncing the Hebrew letter het, which are not present in Standard Greek. Hebrew and Aramaic loanwords in Judeo-Greek take from many different semantic areas. Of course, Judeo-Greek borrows many words pertaining to liturgical practices, such as mizmor, meaning psalm, and amidah, meaning standing prayer. However, Judeo-Greek also borrows Hebrew and Aramaic word insults, such as tipesh, which means fool. Additionally, Judeo-Greek borrows Hebrew and Aramaic words that pertain to trade, such as paslimoto, meaning merchandise of poor quality. Because Judeo-Greek borrows so heavily from Hebrew and Aramaic, sentences that use Hebrew and Aramaic loanwords in Judeo-Greek almost always tend to follow the morphology and syntax of their original language. However, some non-loanwords in Judeo-Greek differ from conventional Greek morphology and syntax, such as adding Hebrew and Aramaic suffixes to words or assigning gender to nouns according to their Hebrew gender. One major difference between Judeo-Greek and Standard Greek is that Judeo-Greek primarily uses a Hebrew script as opposed to a Greek script, although a Greek script has more recently begun to be used. Thus, Hebrew loanwords have also been represented using their original Hebrew script. And here on the right side of the screen, we can see a Judeo-Greek translation of Shir HaShirim Rabbah, a midrash on the biblical Song of Songs. We see here that it's written in a Hebrew script. So now we have some examples of words in Judeo-Greek. Some Judeo-Greek words that relate to weddings are kala, which means bride, shatan, which means groom, and some others that you can see here. For greetings in Judeo-Greek, there is the standard Hebrew shalom, which means goodbye and hello, and Shabbat shalom, which is what they say as goodbye and hello on Shabbat. On holidays, Judeo-Greek speakers will say kalo moed, which means have a good holiday. On Passover, they say kalo pesach, which means have a good Passover. On Yom Kippur, they might say kalo ta'anit, which means have a good fast. And there are also many words for non-Jews in Judeo-Greek. For example, they might refer to non-Jews as aral, meaning uncircumcised, and goy, meaning Gentile. To refer to Jesus, Judeo-Greek speakers often say Yeshua, which is Jesus's original Hebrew name. And you can see here some of these words or phrases have a Greek origin, some a Hebrew origin, and some a combination of the two. There have historically been multiple dialects of Judeo-Greek, but they have all been mutually intelligible, only deviating minimally due to slight regional variations. There are also differences with the use of Judeo-Greek between its male and female speakers. These differences mainly come from the fact that women in Judeo-Greek speaking communities have historically not received a traditional Jewish education. As a result, men tend to refer to ritual objects by their function or meaning, while women generally refer to them by what they literally are or look like. Judeo-Greek has also been used as a secret language, especially by Judeo-Greek merchants, so that they could talk about things like the quality or value of a product without non-Jews being able to understand what they're saying. I'm now going to play a video of a Judeo-Greek speaker describing Purim festivities. So let me pull that up. And this speaker is named Ari Kabili, and he's a 79-year-old from Iona, Greece. Listen for distinct Greek and Hebrew phonology in his speech. If you know Greek, you might notice that Ari's speech sounds similar to that of Standard Greek, but he uses more aspirations and the aforementioned guttural sound that is used in the Hebrew letter het.
איזה עוד מנהגים היו עושים בפורים מיוחד מאוד?
So, Ari is one of the last remaining Judeo-Greek speakers, as the number of people speaking the language has dwindled greatly in the past century. This is mainly due to the fact that the Jewish populations in Greece and much of the rest of the Mediterranean were decimated by the Holocaust. Today, there remain about 4,000 Judeo-Greek speakers, living mainly in Greece and Israel. Because there are so few remaining Judeo-Greek speakers and descendants of Judeo-Greek speakers, there is almost no post-vernacular activity with the language. In the 21st century, most use of Judeo-Greek is now between Greek and Israeli individuals who still speak the language, most of whom are elderly. So here are my sources, and that is it. So thank you all for watching.